All right, we're weathering it space style. We got a long coronal hole here just south of the solar equator. Otherwise, very low solar activity. Let's look at a different view. Here we look at 94 angstroms and see that active region setting. There is still some chance for some minor X-ray activity due to the emissivity at obtuse angles. And otherwise, not a lot going on there. North Solar Pole is gaining in strength. Finally, here are the magnetic lines. And we will probably be seeing an on-again, off-again connection with that coronal hole as the earthquake risk continues. We are still experiencing a massive drought in 6 and 7 magnitude quakes. Take a look at the real-time solar wind. We see only a couple fleeting connections with that coronal hole over the past day. Solar wind densities dropped all the way down to 3.10 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed all the way down to 329 kilometers per second. And we'll look at the Gong 2 here, as some of us, sorry mainstream astronomers, some of us are aware that magnetic fields run the universe, not gravitational ones. Anyway, this gives us a good view of that North Pole field. You can see it's kind of phasing around a little bit, so we're keeping an eye on that. Otherwise, fairly smooth sailing for the Earth's magnetic environment. Keep in mind this data is an hour and 55 minutes old, and we are still looking for a greater magnetic connection to that coronal hole and an increase in earthquake risk as a result. Look at some more data on spaceweathernews.com. Tiny little bit of X-ray flaring there, but nothing even in the high A range, really. Magnetometer smooth as predicted. And the KP index still at 0, so that's a human health cosmic ray alert, folks. Electron flux is looking smooth. Dipping down a little bit less each day there. No charging hazards. And the F2 layer is looking pretty normal. Less of a charge disparity between the current area that's getting sunlight and this discharged area. Not as much of a disparity as we saw, for instance, on the day that they had a 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Ecuador. Let's do a cosmic ray rundown. We'll leave links to all these sites. First, Athens, who has experienced a wild downtick and then settled into a slightly higher baseline, it looks like. So this will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. We also like to look at Mexico City. They typically send back good data there. There's Mexico City. Here's the Moscow neutron monitor. You see that giant spike a couple days ago. That's one of the higher readings that they've had. Next, we'll check out Oulu, Finland. There's the situation there. DOMC Antarctica. And here's DOMB Antarctica. Let's look at the earthquake situation on globalincidentmap.com. Like I said, we're experiencing a drought. Areas that should be on watch for a 6+ magnitude earthquake are these areas, as they've all been experiencing deep earthquakes. So we're still on the lookout for a 6 or a 7. Probably more than one, actually. So anyway, we have a 5.2 in Papua New Guinea, 4.5 in Dominican Republic, 4.2 Puerto Rico. We've been seeing lots of Caribbean quakes lately. Give you an idea what's going on there. Lots of quakes in the Caribbean. Grand Anse Guadalupe. I'm not sure what that is. One of those little tiny islands there, also in the Caribbean. Let's see. 4.1 in New Zealand, 4.5 in Iceland. Looks like it's right on the Vonachikul Glacier. Possibly volcanic in origin, and if so, a 4.5. In fact, that is a volcano right there. Hopefully, the 4.5 not associated with volcanic activity. Where am I? I feel confused. There we go. China, a 4.9. 4.5 in 4.4 in Japan, 4.4 in Nicaragua, 4.6 in Indonesia at depth, 117 kilometers there. 4.5 in El Salvador, 4.0 in Alaska. And a 5.5 is the largest one we see here. And that one was located very far south between New Zealand and Antarctica. So, have an earthquake plan, folks, especially if you live in an earthquake-prone region. How about some volcanoes? Volcanodiscovery.com. We see Karimsky. There you can see some ash coming out of Karimsky. Producing a 9,000-foot plume. Shivaluch, 15,000-foot ash plume there. Semeru in East Java, Indonesia. 14,000-foot ash plume there, so that's kind of a new one on the list. Dakono, 6,000-foot plume there. Fuego not seen. Revenador, ongoing eruptions likely. Planchon Petaroa, 15,000-foot ash plume. Next, let's look at geospace magnetosphere movies. First, the velocity. Excuse me. And we should see fairly low velocity here. Here's the same thing in density. See some waves of solar wind there coming in at different densities. Remember, the white is low density on this particular image. And here's the pressure. We see very low pressure, thanks to the University of Michigan geospace model V1.5. Very weak in terms of pressure there. And do we have missing data? I think it's all there that time. Let that play through. And moving on to ground geospace perturbations. Here are your ground magnetic perturbations over the poles. Looks like not a lot going on there. And it's not particularly surprising with the solar wind as low as it is. And here it is from the global perspective. Those of you who are interested in things like the polar excursion are aware that we have two north poles. There's one down here. That's too far south. There's one up here. And there's one up here. This one's a little stronger. And the South Pole is kind of doing one of these numbers, heading up toward Western Australia. Hubble has taken photographs of hundreds of billions of galaxies, and we need people to classify some, so if you have the time, head to zooniverse.org, go to the Galaxy Zoo Project, one of the largest citizen science projects in the world. Help us classify some galaxies, possibly get published in an astronomy paper. And here we got an interesting one. Quite an irregular galaxy there. So it's a great opportunity. So let's identify one so you see what this entails. There's about 7 million galaxies left. It's not an edge-on disk. There's about 7 million left, so get yourself a login and get started before they're all classified. There are other citizen science projects also available at zooniverse.org. Is there a bar? There's no bar. Is there a spiral arm pattern? There is. Do they appear tight, medium, or loose? I'm going to say tightly wrapped. How many spiral arms? I'm going to say 3. Although it's pretty hard to tell. And is there a bulge? There indeed is a bulge. We'll say moderate. Is it merging or disturbed? We're going to say major disturbance. And as far as irregular features, well, there's quite a few. So there is a ring-like system there, so we're going to say that. Let's say lens or arc also, irregular. Dust lane. Now, overlap, I'm not so sure. It looks like down here there is some overlap. Possibly another galaxy in the background, which counts. So lots of features on this one, folks. And that's done. Who will be the citizen scientist to classify this one? Let's come back a little closer to home. Look at the Enlil prediction here, showing us the solar system environment. Top pane is the plasma density of the solar wind, and the bottom pane is the velocity. And we are expecting to see this velocity dip even farther down until about the 27th, when the wind stream from the Earth-facing coronal hole arrives. Let's look at the electron content. To new viewers, the total electron content affects things like GPS and satellite charging hazards. It also gives us some insight into things like the South Atlantic anomaly, an area of odd magnetism over here near South America. And we do see some effects. Keep in mind, this is looking at the entire vertical column, all the way from the F2 ionosphere layer down through the thermosphere, all the way through the entire atmosphere, because that's the environment through which satellites need to communicate. Next, let's look at an article at forum.iceagefarmer.com. Yes, Ice Age Farmer's YouTube channel is one of our officially endorsed ones. And this comment thanks Anomalous Howard, a great, super interesting article. Did a large CME, coronal mass ejection, cause the Great Chicago Fire, which eventually became known as the Great Michigan Fire? So I'll leave links to this article. It's quite interesting that all those locations simultaneously burned. Here are the kind of solar prominences we saw. And I don't know about you, I've never seen any like that. But we'll leave links. Good article. Get yourself reading some stuff over there at iceagefarmer.com. Super great disaster prep farming style stuff. Also, we'll leave links to another government website here. Heard about this one on the Joe Rogan show yesterday. I forget which guest it was, but nga.mil, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. If you want to check this out, there's probably mountains of data that will confuse the hell out of you, as most government sites have. But check it out. It's a military site. Maybe if the military is studying this, you can get some of the information, and maybe it'll be useful to you. Who knows? Speaking of useful information, the Peter Schiff Show, which is the Schiff Report on YouTube. We have a terrible headline on his most recent video, which came out yesterday, and he's basically saying what we've been saying. And when the Fed indicates higher tolerance for inflation, that's not generally a good sign. The government admits inflation is at about 3%, so the idea that it's going to go up indicates weakness in the U.S. dollar. I recommend diversifying, getting out of the U.S. dollar, buying things like precious metal and other commodities. We were telling you to buy silver at $14 per ounce. It's up around the high 15s now. Keep in mind, the last time we had any kind of a financial crisis in 2008 and 2009, the price of silver went up to $50 an ounce. Now remember, folks, I'm not currently a licensed investment advisor, but Yeah, you heard it. If I could wave my magic wand, I am made from the dust of the stars, and the oceans flow in my veins. Here I hide in the heart of the city, like a stranger coming out of the rain. The evening plane rises up from the runway over constellations of light. I look down into a million houses and wonder what you're doing tonight. By the way, I was amazed when I saw Rush play live. The first album that I ever bought was Rush Presto, and when they played in 2012, this was actually the second song they played. I was in disbelief. Next, we've got our daily Rot Your Brain segment, random-eyes.com. Is it a blue pill? Is it, are you gonna go? Are you gonna press it? Are you gonna press it? I dare you. I'm not gonna press it today, folks. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Never mind, I did it. All right, waiting for a random site. All right, we've got sperm cells, gravity point. Yeah. I guess it's a galaxy generator. I like this. Open controls. Check it out. All right. CodePen.io. I think I just created a black hole, folks. No, I don't believe in black holes, but still. It's turning into a supermassive black hole, folks. And it's frankly starting to freak me out. All right, well, that was fun. So, thank you so very, very much, viewers, subscribers, donors, commenters. You make our station what it is. We'll be doing it all again tomorrow. Please share with your friends on social media. Don't forget to press the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, well, what are you waiting for? Wouldn't you prefer to see these videos every day? In any case, we appreciate your just simply watching. And remember, when you're staring at the sun at 171 angstroms, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun. Don't drive.